The clatter of cutlery and warm laughter filled the upscale restaurant. Around our family's Thanksgiving table, the conversation turned, as it always did, to my brother, Ethan. I pushed my mashed potatoes around my plate, listening to them praise his latest deal. Then my father's gaze landed on me. "And you, Grace? Still running that little counseling group?" His tone was dismissive. I took a steadying breath. "It's a clinic for trauma victims, Dad. We're expanding." Aunt Clara sniffed. My mother patted my hand, a condescending gesture. "Sweetheart, it's time to stop pretending you're successful. Not everyone is meant for big dreams. A stable office job might be better." A wave of uncomfortable laughter traveled around the table. My cheeks burned. Just then, our young waiter returned. He looked directly at me, his face bright with recognition. "Dr. Whitmore, I didn't realize it was you. I need to thank you. The children's wing you funded. That's where I recovered after my accident." The table fell into a stunned, profound silence. I offered the waiter a small, polite smile, hiding the storm of old hurts and new vindications swirling inside me. Sitting in that silence, a memory surfaced. 3 years ago, I walked away from a lucrative corporate career. The money was great, but my soul felt empty. I used my savings and every ounce of my courage to start a counseling clinic for trauma victims. My family never understood. To them, it was a hobby, an eccentric phase. "A real doctor helps sick people, Grace," my mother had said, dismissing my PhD in psychology. Their pride was always reserved for Ethan, the golden child who became a high-flying investment banker. His success was loud, celebrated with expensive bottles of wine. Mine was quiet, measured in the quiet breakthroughs of my patients. I financed it all myself, taking no family money, wanting to prove I could. Later that night, as I replayed the dinner, an email from my parents popped up. The subject line read, "Family Gathering." It said, "We're planning something big for Ethan at Christmas. You'll want to be there." A cold dread settled in my stomach. Christmas Eve was at my parents' impeccably decorated home. The air smelled of pine and ambition. After dinner, my father stood, clinking his glass for attention. "Your mother and I are thrilled to announce we're investing in Ethan's new real estate venture, Whitmore Legacy Properties. This is our family's future." Applause erupted. My mother beamed, her arm linked through Ethan's. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten. I knew the real estate market was volatile. "Dad, have you seen the full business plan, the risk assessment?" I asked quietly. My mother cut me off with a sharp look. "Not everyone is built to handle real money, Grace. Leave this to your brother." The dismissal was a familiar sting. Later, fetching more dessert, I overheard Ethan on the patio bragging to a friend. "The old man is all in. Don't worry, the numbers look great. A little creative accounting never hurt anyone." My blood ran cold. His words were casual, confident, and utterly terrifying. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Using the public access terminal at the local library, I began quietly investigating Ethan's new company. The business filings were public record. At first, everything looked normal on the surface. But as I dug deeper, the red flags became impossible to ignore. The assets he listed were wildly inflated compared to their probable market value. There were contracts with companies that seemed to have no digital footprint. It was a house of cards, meticulously designed to look impressive. My heart pounded as I clicked through document after document. Then I found it. A filing listed the primary source of seed funding, my parents' retirement fund. They hadn't just invested some money. They had bet their entire financial security, their golden years, on Ethan's shaky empire. The screen blurred before my eyes. They were in far deeper than I had ever imagined. I arranged to meet my parents for coffee, choosing a neutral, quiet spot. I laid out printouts of the public filings, my notes highlighting the inconsistencies. "Please, just have an independent lawyer look at this," I pleaded. "I think Ethan is in over his head." My father's face turned a dark shade of red. "Jealousy is an ugly color on you, Grace," he spat. "You've always been bitter about your brother's success." My mother shook her head, her expression full of pity. "Ethan is building an empire while you play therapist for sad people. Can't you just be happy for this family?" The words felt like a physical blow. I tried one more time, my voice trembling. "I'm trying to protect you." My father stood, scraping his chair back. "If you breathe a word of this slander to anyone, I will cut you out of my will. Consider this your final warning." I was left alone at the table, the printed evidence feeling as worthless as they believed me to be. I drove home in a blur of tears, their harsh words echoing in my mind. The finality in my father's voice broke something inside me. I had spent my life seeking their approval, bending myself to fit their definition of success. For what? To be called jealous and unstable when I tried to save them? That night, staring out my apartment window at the city lights, a strange calm settled over me. The begging was over. I would not seek their belief again, but I also couldn't stand by and watch them be ruined. If they wouldn't let me help them as their daughter, I would find another way. I had to protect them without their knowledge. I picked up my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found a number I hadn't dialed in years. It was for Michael, a brilliant financial lawyer I had once counseled through a severe crisis. He owed me nothing, but I hoped he would listen. Michael met me for lunch the next day. He listened intently as I laid out my concerns, my voice low. He took the documents, his sharp eyes scanning the pages. "Let me make some discreet inquiries," he said. A week later his call came. "Grace, your instincts were right. It's a shell scheme. The assets are fictional, the contracts are for show. If your parents invest, they will lose everything. It's not a matter of if, but when it collapses." A heavy weight pressed on my chest. "Thank you, Michael. I owe you." "Just returning a favor," he replied softly. That evening, trying to distract myself, I opened a social media app. The first post was from my mother, a glowing family photo. The caption read, "So proud to officially announce our partnership with Whitmore Legacy Properties. The future is bright. #family legacy, proud parents." They had already gone public. The trap was already sprung, and they were celebrating inside it. The launch party for Whitmore Legacy Properties was held in a glittering hotel ballroom. I wore a simple black dress, feeling like a ghost at the feast. My parents glowed, accepting congratulations, their pride a tangible force in the room. Ethan held court, charismatic and smooth, giving a speech about family trust and building something that lasts. He looked every inch the successful son. I stood near the back, my champagne flute untouched, watching the performance, and then I saw her. Isabel, a determined journalist from the local business journal. I remembered her from a charity event my clinic had sponsored. She wasn't here to celebrate. She was watching Ethan with a skeptical, calculating gaze, her notebook held discreetly at her side. She was already investigating. The pieces were moving on the board, and my brother had no idea. After the party, I waited outside in the chilly night air. When Isabel emerged, I fell into step beside her. "Isabel, do you have a moment?" She recognized me, her surprise evident. We found a quiet bench. "I can't go on the record," I began, "but everything you suspect about Whitmore Legacy is true." I handed her an envelope containing only the public records I had found, the inflated assets, the ghost companies. "The truth will speak for itself," I said. She took the envelope, a look of understanding in her eyes. "I appreciate this, Dr. Whitmore. For what it's worth, my editor wouldn't have greenlit my investigation if there weren't already whispers. The project is already under quiet review by state regulators." The confirmation was both a relief and a horror. The collapse was now inevitable. The news broke 2 weeks later. The headline was splashed across the business section: "State investigating Whitmore real estate project for financial misconduct." My phone started ringing before I had even finished reading the article. It was my father, his voice a roar of fury. "What did you do? You vindictive little... You tipped off the press, didn't you? You've ruined this family." I tried to speak, to explain, but the line went dead. Then my mother called, weeping, accusing me of jealousy, of trying to destroy my brother. Their social circle was ablaze with the scandal. The family name, once a source of pride, was now a joke. I went to my clinic, seeking solace in the familiar routine. Later, as I was locking up, my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Ethan. His voice was low, cold, and venomous. "You think you're better than me? You'll regret this, Grace, I promise you that." Ethan was swift and strategic in his retaliation. He called every family friend and relative, spinning a tale of a jealous, unstable sister who couldn't bear his success and had fabricated lies to bring him down. "She's always been fragile," he'd say, his voice full of fake concern. The effect was immediate. Friends I'd known for years stopped returning my calls. Whispers followed me at the grocery store. I kept my head high, focusing on my work. The clinic was my sanctuary, a place where truth and healing mattered. My staff noticed the tension, but offered unwavering support. One afternoon, as I was reviewing a patient file, my assistant said a man was here to see me, but he wasn't a patient. Cautiously, I agreed to see him. He was young, nervous, and introduced himself as Mark. "I used to work for your brother," he whispered. "I have something you need to see." Mark handed me a small flash drive. "He fired me when I asked too many questions," he said. "I can't stay." After he left, I plugged the drive into my computer. It contained a treasure trove of damning emails. There they were, in black and white. Ethan instructing an associate to fudge the numbers and make the assets look more attractive. He knowingly falsified financial statements to secure investments. I immediately called Michael, my lawyer friend. "This is it, Grace. This is the corroboration the regulators will need. It proves intent." My hands were shaking as I hung up. Driven by a new fear, I did a quick public records search on my parents' house. The result made my heart stop. A new mortgage had been taken out just last month. They had leveraged their home, their last solid asset, to pour more money into Ethan's sinking ship. I drove to my parents' house, the printed emails clutched in my hand. This was my last attempt. My mother opened the door, her face a mask of cold fury. "You're not welcome here with your poison," she said, but I stepped inside. "Please, just look at this. He knew what he was doing. He lied to you." I thrust the papers toward my father, who was sitting in his armchair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. He took them, his eyes scanning the pages. For a second, I saw a flicker of doubt. Then, his face hardened again. With a roar of anger, he ripped the pages in half, then again and again, scattering the pieces like confetti at a miserable party. "Get out," he bellowed. I turned and left, the front door slamming shut behind me. As I walked to my car, I took out my phone and quietly took a photograph of the shredded papers lying on their welcome mat. The collapse was swift and total. The state regulators, armed with the evidence, shut down Whitmore Legacy Properties. The news headlines were brutal. "Local family empire crumbles. Millions missing in Whitmore scandal." My parents were socially ostracized. The retirement fund was obliterated. The money from the second mortgage was gone, swallowed by the legal fees and debts. The family name was mud. And Ethan? He simply vanished. No one knew where he was. He didn't answer his phone, didn't respond to emails. He left my parents to face the music alone, to deal with the creditors and the shame. The house of cards had not just fallen, it had exploded, and my parents were standing in the wreckage, finally realizing the architect had fled. I went to my parents' house not with an "I told you so," but with a genuine offer of help. I had contacts with good lawyers and financial advisors who could help them navigate the bankruptcy. I offered them access to counseling through my clinic. Their pride, however, was the last thing to break. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" my mother said, her voice hollow. "You and your jinx. You did this." They refused my help, choosing to blame me rather than face the truth about their golden son. I left, my heart aching for them. Back at the clinic, I focused on the good I could do. A week later, I received an official letter. The grant application I had worked on for months had not only been renewed, the funding had been doubled. It was a beacon of light in a very dark time. The doubled grant allowed me to dream bigger. I decided to expand the clinic, adding a brand new wing specifically dedicated to helping victims of financial fraud and trauma. It was a space for people who, like my parents, had their security and trust stolen. I named it the Whitmore Resilience Center. It wasn't a dig, it was a reclamation. We would redefine what the Whitmore name meant in this town. The construction was swift, the energy in the clinic electric with positive change. One evening, as I was reviewing blueprints, my personal phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. A hoarse, familiar voice spoke. "Grace? It's me, Ethan. I'm coming home." The line went dead. After all this time, the prodigal son was returning. I drove past my parents' house the next day. Ethan's beat-up sedan was in the driveway. I parked across the street and watched. The front door opened, and my mother emerged, followed by a hunched, unshaven Ethan. He looked broken, his expensive clothes replaced by a worn-out jacket. My mother hugged him tightly, her face etched with worry, not anger. She was still taking him in, still idolizing him, even now. He was home, and they were still making excuses for him. I started my car and drove away, unseen. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Ethan. "I need to see you. I need a job. Can I work at your clinic?" I stared at the message, a storm of conflicting emotions warring inside me. Compassion warred with justice. He was my brother, and he was clearly broken. But he had also caused immense damage and never truly taken responsibility. I called a meeting with my senior staff. They were unanimously against it. "He'll disrupt the environment," one said. "He'll use you," warned another. They were right. But I also believed in the work we did. Maybe this was his chance for real redemption. I replied to his text, setting a firm boundary. "Meet me at my office tomorrow at 8 a.m. You can start as an intern. You will be treated like any other entry-level staff member. No special treatment. Understood?" His one-word reply came instantly. Understood. Ethan's first weeks were a brutal exercise in humility. I assigned him to the facilities team. He mopped floors, cleaned bathrooms, and filed mountains of paperwork. The staff, knowing who he was and what he had done, were coolly professional. No one was rude, but no one offered friendship either. I watched him sometimes from my office window. The arrogant swagger was gone, replaced by slumped shoulders. He did the work without complaint. One afternoon, I saw him pause in the main lobby, staring up at the large donor recognition wall. His eyes were fixed on a prominent engraved plate at the top. It bore my name, Dr. Grace Whitmore, founder and lead benefactor. He stood there for a long time, a dawning realization on his face before slowly picking up his mop and continuing his work. He came to my office at the end of the day, closing the door softly behind him. The confident banker was gone. In his place was a humbled man. "I didn't know," he began, his voice rough. "I thought this was just your little project. I had no idea it was all this, that you built this." He gestured around us. "I'm so sorry, Grace, for everything. The things I said, what I did to Mom and Dad. I was a fool." It was the first real apology he had ever offered me. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Later that week, I got a call from a family friend. The news was grim. My parents had missed too many mortgage payments. The bank was initiating foreclosure proceedings on their home. They were about to lose everything they had left. I couldn't let them become homeless. Their pride had isolated them from most of their resources. Using the clinic's new financial trauma outreach program as a cover, I anonymously arranged for a nonprofit legal aid group to take on their case. I funded the legal fees through a discreet donation, ensuring the lawyers could fight the foreclosure. My parents never knew it came from me. They believed they had gotten lucky, that a pro bono group had taken pity on them. A few weeks later, as the legal process began to stabilize their situation, my phone rang. It was my father. His voice was hesitant, older. "Grace, your mother and we were wondering if you'd like to come for Thanksgiving, at the restaurant, like old times." The invitation was an olive branch, fragile and full of unspoken regret. We were back at the same restaurant. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and awkward silence. My parents were civil, but distant, the weight of the past year hanging over us. Ethan was there, quiet and respectful. We made stilted conversation about the weather. It felt like we were all actors in a play, pretending everything was normal. Then, a familiar young man approached our table. It was the same waiter from last year. He broke into a wide smile when he saw me. "Dr. Whitmore, it's so good to see you again. The staff was just talking about you. Congratulations on that National Humanitarian Award for your clinic. My sister was in your new trauma program. You helped her walk again after her accident. Our whole family is so grateful." He beamed, unaware of the bomb he had just dropped. My parents froze, their forks hovering midair. The waiter's heartfelt words hung in the air. Other guests at nearby tables had overheard, and a quiet murmur of admiration spread through our section of the restaurant. People were looking at me with respect, nodding. My parents were visibly uncomfortable, their faces a mixture of shock and dawning shame. They had been so busy looking for success in boardrooms and bank accounts, they had been blind to the empire of compassion I had built right under their noses. My father cleared his throat, unable to meet my eyes. He stared at his plate, his voice barely a whisper. You've done well for yourself, Grace." It was the closest he had ever come to giving me a compliment. I looked at my parents, at their defeated postures and finally open expressions. I felt no desire to gloat. The victory was in the quiet truth, finally acknowledged. I gave them a soft, genuine smile. I stopped pretending a long time ago, Dad. I used their own cruel words, not as a weapon, but as a key to unlock the past. The meaning was entirely new now. It meant I had stopped pretending my success wasn't real. I had stopped pretending their definition of success was the only one. My mother reached across the table, her hand trembling as it covered mine. A tear traced a path through her makeup. "Can we?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Can we visit your clinic sometime? We'd like to see it." A few days later, I walked them through the Whitmore Resilience Center. Staff members greeted me with warm smiles and, "Hello, Dr. Whitmore." Patients stopped to shake my hand, sharing small updates with genuine affection. My parents saw the state-of-the-art facilities, the sunny therapy rooms, the atmosphere of hope and healing. They saw Ethan in the background, quietly organizing supply closets, earning his keep. He nodded at them, a look of quiet understanding passing between them. My mother slipped her hand into mine, just as she had when I was a child. "We were so wrong about you," she whispered, her voice full of a painful, beautiful truth. I squeezed her hand gently. "You just didn't believe success could look different, Mom." As we reached the main lobby, my father paused in front of a beautiful, polished plaque on the wall. He reached out and traced the engraved words with his finger. It read, "Founded by Dr. Grace Whitmore, in honor of her family's lessons." He didn't speak, he just nodded, a single tear finally escaping as he finally fully saw me.